I created them first in Israel. They launched in December 2016. And I created them after reading about sexual harassment kind of every other day. It was Trump here in the States. It was the former president in Israel. It was actors in both Israel and the States getting rewards even though women were complaining about sexual harassment. And that really annoyed me, and I wanted to figure out what sexual harassment was, and because we were just reading about it and hearing about it, but you never got to see it. And then that's how the films came to be. They went viral like in a couple of hours after they aired in Israel. And that's when I called David. He's the first person I thought about when I tried to think who can make these happen in the States. And I sent him the films, and David immediately said, you know, I have to do this here.
Yeah. Also, should be said that one of the films is based on an incident that happened to Sigal. So she was a victim of sexual harassment at a much younger age, and the film called The Actor, in which a man played by the amazing, great friend of mine, an actor, Noah Emmerich, takes his penis out when he's on set working with an assistant costume designer or dresser. And a similar incident happened to Sigal when she was a young playwright. So that was the first film that kind of came to her, and some of the dialogue is verbatim from that experience she had.
David, there's a personal thing with you in these films as well, right? I think you've said that your mother was sexually harassed.
I mean,
as well.
every woman I know pretty much has been sexually harassed. I mean, let's be honest. My mother, as a young lawyer growing up, was constantly harassed and victim of discrimination and chauvinism and sexism. My sister, when she entered the workforce, former girlfriends, pretty much every colleague and friend of mine, you know. In fact, when we made these short films, the majority of the crew were women. And unsolicited, every single woman on the crew came forward saying, you know, this reminds me of what happened to me. Everyone had an experience. Unfortunately, it's incredibly prevalent. And we also want to acknowledge that it happens to men. Of course it happens to men. And while we don't dramatize any incidents where men are the victims, we also just want to acknowledge that it happens to everyone, indiscriminate of gender. However, the vast majority of victims are women, so that's what we chose to focus on.